And so for me, the idea of doing a drug that sort of wrenches control of myself from my conscious mind. Now, one might say, well, what about religion? Well, I trust Christianity. I trust Christian worship. I trust Christian prayer. I trust these things. And so I do get out of myself in those ways. But psilocybin, LSD, these kind of things, I look at it and think, I no, thank you. I don't want to have that trip. I'm not at all interested in going there.
Do you fear death?
It's hard to know what you fear until you're facing it. So there was a there was one evening when I felt I don't remember what it was exactly. I never knew what it was, but my chest felt a little tight and a little bit of pain. And so I thought, well, they always say if you have this, you should, so did the whole thing. My wife, takes me to the emergency room. They strap me up. They do all this and, oh, you're fine. Go home. But, it takes about an hour to go through the whole process. And so then I was just sitting here thinking, my father died at 77 with a heart attack that was right out of the blue. My sister died at 53 of a heart attack that was right out of the blue. I am fully aware that I could follow them and I could die tomorrow of a heart attack. So when I was, sitting there in that ER strapped up to the machines and everything, and I was thinking, yeah, this could be it. How do I feel about that? I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid. Now, that doesn't mean that there wouldn't be times when things would sneak up on me and make me afraid to die. I think that's just a very natural thing. And I remember there was another time when I was a missionary in the Dominican Republic, and we were flying down to the Dominican Republic. And at that point, I had one child. So it was my wife and myself and that one child. And we were taking off from Miami and we're flying to Santo Domingo. And we get up in the air and we're in the air about 15, 20 minutes. And suddenly smoke starts filling the cabin of the airplane. And this airplane was full of Dominicans. And a good number of people lost their shit. And it was, and you could tell that, the flight attendants were running around with worried looks on their faces. And very quickly the plane, most of the time they try to drive those planes, like it's very, very easy. John Van Dock could tell you a story about that with respect to buses. But whoosh, suddenly this big jetliner goes, whoa, and you could tell that we're heading back to Miami and something was wrong. And actually, by virtue of seats, I was seated a little bit apart from my wife and my son, because we'd always look for empty seats, and because he was small for a child seat. And I just kind of looked back at her and I thought, oh, this could be it. This could be it. And it wasn't really a sense of panic, but and this for me is part of the reason why I advocate long-term, from childhood, if possible, religious belief and commitment. That none of us know how we're going to react in any given new situation, but if you've been brought up on the Heidelberg Catechism, on the first question and answer, that I belong body and soul and in life and in death to my faithful Savior Jesus Christ, there's a level of that gets into you, so that when you get into a situation, you can say, all right, I belong body and soul in life and in death to my faithful Savior Jesus Christ, was fully paid for all my sin with his precious blood. And, and again, to have some of this stuff committed to memory, it's like, okay, I might die right now. How do I feel about that? And you say, well, it's not necessarily, the timing is not necessarily of my own choosing, but I believe I will be with the Lord, and I believe he will do what's right. And I believe I have been saved by his son, Jesus Christ. So on to the next thing. And
Where did you get that?
where'd I get what?
I didn't get that belief when I was a kid.
Well, I don't think I had it when I was a kid. Well, part of the thing is that at this point you're 22 and we think we know what we think, but we don't really.
No.
And as you age and you get into your 40s and, somebody from your high school class dies. You get into your 50s and a couple more people from your high school class die and you think, oh. And then your
Kind of high
father
school
dies.
class.
Yeah. And then suddenly you begin to realize, oh, I'm not exceptional. I'm, with my father, it was funny because he thought he had to write something for something that he was doing once. And how long do you think you'll live? Well, he thought his father lived to 90. So he thought he'd live to 90. That's basically what he said. So, when he died at 77, he died so fast, I don't know that he even had a minute to think about it. I don't know, but we all thought about it when he died at 77. And as I was talking to my mother last night, and I was saying, yeah, 77 is sounding younger and younger all the time. Almost everybody in the room over there is over 77. And my mother's now 85. And so, and I think about, okay, 20 years from now, if I live, I'll be 80. I don't feel old. I'm healthy, got energy, could stand to lose a few pounds. Blood pressure's a little high, but that'd probably come off with the weight. Odds are, I saw my father and my grandfather, when they got about my age, they tended to slim down. I'll probably lose this weight at some point. But 20 years ago, I was 40. I don't feel a lot different than when I was 40. But I know that when I'm 80, things will be different when
Yeah.
I'm 80.
Yeah.
So it comes.
Okay.
Life is short.